In Stardew Valley, the energy bar can be a source of confusion for some players when they first start playing. How am I already exhausted? It feels like I'm barely done anything, just chopped down a few trees or broken a couple of rocks, and suddenly I collapse, losing $50 in the process. Or perhaps I had planned to stop by the grocery store in town that day, only to realize that I simply didn't have enough energy left and would have to put it off until tomorrow. And if you know, those nerve-wracking moments when you're right on the edge of passing out, desperately hoping you'll make it back home before collapsing. However, Stardew Valley's charming visual style, a cozy countryside fairy-tale town paired with relaxing background music, along with the fact that you really don't have much to worry about at the beginning, gradually changes the way players perceive this system. At first, your day mostly consists of watering a few parsnips, clearing some weeds and bushes outside your farmhouse, and maybe dropping by to visit a few neighbors around the town. Slowly but surely, players began to accept the logic behind it. Alright then, in a place where everything feels so peaceful and laid back, why should I be working myself to death like a 24/7 convenience store employee? If I run out of energy, so be it. I will just head to bed and wait for tomorrow to arrive. And that's exactly what developers want to see. Once players have settled into game's slow and easygoing run, the pace begins to pick up. New letters arrive in the mailbox, new quests appear, and the game gradually encourages you to both explore the richer systems and stories hidden throughout Stardew Valley and expand your own little corner of it. Before long, players began to realize that a single day suddenly doesn't feel nearly long enough anymore. I was supposed to water my crops before bed, but after spending the entire day mining, I'm already out of energy. And it is at this moment the player began to think that there's only two ways to become more efficient. First, decide what deserves priority before the day even begins. Second, figure out how to make that energy bar last longer. The answer, of course, is both. And once again, that's exactly what the developers want to see. The moment that you start mentally mapping out your own roads for the day and arranging your tasks according to the priority, you already learned to explore the game on your own terms and drive your own progress. Rather than relying on an endlessly stream of letters in your mailbox or a giant checklist of quests handed to you by the developers. And when you begin looking for ways to increase your maximum energy or restore it more efficiently, the energy bar stops being a restriction and starts becoming a resource in its own right. At that point, a new set of goals naturally emerges. I need upgrades, and I need a bit better tools, foods, and items that can keep my energy top up. To sum it up, I would consider the energy bar in Stardew Valley an excellent example of game design, a system where imposing limitations on the player actually encourages self-motivation, allowing goals and tasks to emerge naturally rather than being explicitly assigned by the game itself. In fact, similar ideas can be found in many other games. In some strategy games, this limitation takes the forms of action points. In certain free-to-play titles, those action points are even turned into a monetizable resource that can be replenished with real money. And in many combat-focused games, while your actions may not directly consume a resource, your health is consistently under threat and therefore requires careful management. So why does Stardew Valley's implementation of this idea feel so fresh to players? I believe there's several reasons for that. First, the energy bar never tells you the numbers. First of all, the game never directly tells you how much energy each action costs. And honestly, most players don't actually enjoy staring at a bunch of numbers while playing games. Well, unless you are one of those people who get excited by damage numbers exploding all over the screen. By keeping some of that information hidden, the game actually makes the whole system feel less restrictive. You are not consistently calculating whether chopping down one more tree will cost 6 energy or 8 energy. You'll just get a rough feeling for it over time. Ironically, making the system less visible makes players feel more free, even though the restriction itself never disappeared. That's a psychological trick behind it. Second, it works perfectly with the farming sim genre. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is a very clever way of controlling the pace of the game. Because of the energy bar, you can't just turn yourself into some kind of farming machine that works 24 hours a day without stopping. Every morning you naturally start asking yourself, am I going mining today? Should I spend the day fishing? Do I finally have time to upgrade my pickaxe? Suddenly, planning becomes part of the game. And perhaps more importantly, the game makes you excited for tomorrow. There's always something you didn't get around to doing today. Maybe the crops still need watering. Maybe there's another 5 floors waiting for you in the mines. Maybe you are this close to finally catching that fish. And strangely enough, being forced to stop is exactly what makes you want to keep playing. In a lot of management games with no restrictions, players simply keep going until they burn themselves out. A few hours later they are tired, they quit, and the next time they open the game might be weeks later. Stardew Valley does the opposite. It will stop you while you're still thinking, just one more day. And because the game leaves things unfinished, those unfinished tasks stay in your head. You keep thinking about them after you stop playing, which only makes you more excited to jump back in next time. To sum up, the energy bar in Stardew Valley is not only a unique gameplay experience in itself, but also one that blends seamlessly with the game's quest and progression systems. It is a remarkably clever design, built around the player experience from beginning to end.